Well, to be fair, I did have a couple of gadgets which he probably didn't. Like a teaspoon and an open mind. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Creature from the Pit, written by David Fisher and directed by Christopher Barry, this is his last story for the programme, though he would return to direct the straight-to-video film Downtime, which we will get onto when we tackle that story. But for now, we're going to be talking about Creature from the Pit. This is a 4-part adventure, and it sees the Doctor and Romana land on a jungle-like planet, and whilst they're there, they notice this thing, and the Doctor theorizes it's an egg. However, he gets captured by some guards, and because they're in what they call the place of death, the Doctor gets locked up in like this medieval kind of thing with a neck and his arms stuck like that, and he's sent around walking around. Now, it's important to note in terms of just Doctor Who trivia, this setup with Doctor in the Jungle with this thing was actually reused in another TV program called Animal Magic. Tom Baker had a cameo in that show, in which he plays the Doctor, and he's talking about all the creatures that he's met up, and he mentions the Repos operation, the Seeds of Doom, and just a bunch of creatures that the Doctor has fought. It's not generally considered canon, because he does mention the stories by name, but Tom Baker is in character, and he does mention like how he fought them. So, and just Tom Baker being weird. So I don't know, but it's a very important fact if you're talking about just general Doctor Who knowledge. But anyway, Romana was not seen during this time. Well, yes, she was. She was captured earlier on, and however, there's an ambush by a group of they're basically like cavemen, like savages, who capture Romana, believing that she might be valuable to them, but their leader doesn't really think so he's trying to get them to kill her, but they don't want to. And so the Doctor is still captured by the military group of people, and so he's brought up with to their leader. I don't think she was the Queen, but she basically takes the representation of a queen. This story. So let's talk about the setting. This jungle looks really good, and it gives this story a really great atmospheric, cinematic quality. You really feel like you're in the jungle, and the sound effects and the props and the trees and stuff. I don't think it was shot in an actual jungle. I think it was set, it was all on studio base. But man, it still looks very good. And Christopher Barry does a fantastic job at bringing all the luxuries of the jungle setting and the rest of the sets, especially with the inside of the Queen character's palace. It does seem to weaken when we get into the caves. I think Christopher Barry doesn't do a great job in the caves in his scenes. There's some really generic shots, but overall I think it is a very good looking story. So we get a great scene in which Romana basically tells these people that she's not important, but she's important to these people that she's been saved from. So you better do what she says and not harm her, otherwise she will, if they kill her, then these people are in deep trouble. And I really like how Romana uses her intelligence in this story. It's important to note that this is Lala Ward's first story that she recorded. This would start a trend in which the mid story was actually the first story that the companion actually started. it will be a tradition way later on in the new series where the stuff shot in different order is used to let the actors know where their characters are when they start the season, but we don't really worry about it here. So here, Romana, this is actually Lala Ward's first portrayal, and you do kind of feel it. You can kind of see that she's a bit uncomfortable in certain scenes, but for the majority of the story, she actually plays it very well. And it's also important to note that K9 has a completely different voice in this story. John Leeson didn't return for this season, though in the last two stories, they kind of wrote why the dog K9 didn't have a voice. They had laryngitis, so K9's adapted a new voice. And I'm going to be really controversial here, but I do kind of like it. K9's got a bit new personality. Now, what's really fun about this story, I find, is that K9 gets a lot to do in this story. A lot of people criticize this story for K9 basically solving most of the problems, which I don't think is true. He gets a few action scenes, but he's still pretty mobile. He's still pretty unmobile, I should say. He gets captured a lot. He still has people carrying him around and stuff. But K9 gets a lot to do in this story, and I think it helps with the assembling cast of this story. So the Doctor works out that these people in this jungle planet, metal, any form of metal is rare to them. So whoever has a monopoly of metal, which the Queen character does, is basically the most powerful person on this planet. And she, and whoever is set, who goes to the place of death, automatically gets thrown down a pit to where a creature comes and kills them. And so later on, Romana is captured again by these characters, and the Doctor, to try and save her, jumps into the cave, and this has one of our cliffhangers. This cliffhanger is really cool, mainly because it has the Doctor in a really action scene in which he quickly jumps onto, grabs the rope, and goes down the cliff. But literally the second before the credits roll, you see the rope fall off the pole that it's keeping on, and that just makes you go, it makes you jump. It makes you go, what? How the hell? The Doctor's not going to survive that. He doesn't know about that the rope has just collapsed on him. So it's a bit shame that in the next part, they kind of break the rule a bit, because you see the Doctor now climbing attached to the wall, but what can he do? And then the story kind of breaks between Romana and K9 trying to work out, basically trying to keep alive, whilst the Doctor befriends this old man in this cave. And I really love this old man character. He's he tries to predict the future. He's like reads horoscopes and stuff like that. And he's basically like treats it just like a normal job. He has a big friendship with the Doctor, and he basically becomes a companion for this majority of the story. And Tom Baker and this character really bounce off each other very well, and you kind of learn a little bit more about the creature, in which it's a sort of part of a brain, but not really. And all of this stuff is actually really interesting, though, like I said, it's shot very generic, it's shot very bland. But on the other end, we got Romana and K9, and this bit, I think, is really dull and uninspired, because the majority of it is just Romana using logic to try and keep her and K9 alive, which, yes, that is really cool. but that's all they do, and so it does feel like filler until they can go back and meet up with the Doctor later and team up with each other. It's not inherently bad. I mean, we get to see some great moments with Romana and K9, and there's some few great banter moments, but in terms of just pure plot, it doesn't really add up, and it doesn't really, it just feels like we're waiting, these characters are waiting to be important later. The Doctor tries to communicate with this green blob creature, the creature in the pit, and he finds that he can't actually talk to it. There's a scene that needs to be addressed. The Doctor grabs a sort of tentacle of it and talks into it and blows into it, thinking that it could be like its mouth. Now, behind the scenes, it was a joke that this was the creature's, how can we put it? Its private parts. So the Doctor blew into this creature's private parts. That's officially canon, the Doctor Who. How can you not love a story where there's a doctor talking into a penis? Anyway, so Romana helps this woman to go down into the caves, and she wants K9 to basically shoot the creature. Whilst they're down there, the savages that used to have Romana ransack the Queen's living room, basically, and they find a device on the wall. And when they grab it, they seem to be mind controlled, and they take it down to the caves with them. And they try to break down this wall, and a really great moment is which they're debating on how this wall is going to be destroyed, and K9 uses a blaster and it doesn't work, and Romana basically says that because of the material, as soon as K9 breaks it, it reforms into a much more stronger material, much more stronger component. And when the character's like, how the hell are we going to get the door open now? The Doctor literally just smashes through and is like, oh, hello everyone. And it just shows that Tom Baker has that influence on the show that that most Doctors, and even him, didn't have earlier on in the series. So yeah, this is one of the more Tom Baker shows of the series. We then get to find out that this the creature then tries to come out, and this woman gives off the impression that she knows more than she's telling, because she says, how can you communicate to the creature when I've got it? And she stops herself before she reveals too much. But the Doctor kind of works out that she knows more than she's telling, and the people bring out down this device, which actually leads into one of the cliffhangers. And what's really interesting, I think, about part 4, with most Doctor Who stories, especially in the classic era, we get all the plot, and really the story doesn't really end until the final act in part 4. But this story actually treats the entire 4th episode as the final part, as the conclusion to the story, as straight after the cliffhanger, the plot, the conflicts and all that are all being resolved, as one of the Queen's Guard wants her to grab onto this device, which this creature uses to communicate. As when people grab onto it, they can speak through their neck, so they can talk. So it looks basically it's like puppets. And this creature basically explains that it was an ambassador because this, from his planet, he can basically create metal. However, he doesn't have, I can't remember what he wanted, but this planet is rich on the thing that he wants, but low on metal. So he, as an ambassador, tried to go to this planet and communicate and see if he can make some sort of agreement that would benefit both races. British Queen character, realising that if this agreement takes place, then her monopoly on metal on this planet will be destroyed, captured her, took away his speaking device and sent him down this thing, and this creature tries to communicate to people, but it's been accidentally crushing people, I guess. And that's just really, that's just a really hilarious, morbid thing to think about. That this creature is just, it can't talk, so it tries to like go up to people and accidentally crushes them. Surely there was a better way of helping himself, basically, than just accidentally crushing a bunch of people. My theory is that it was just really in the mood, and that it was trying to mate with all these people, and it failed and it accidentally crushed them. That's my theory anyway. I mean, it was stuck there for, I believe they say 50 years. I could be wrong. 15 years, sorry. So basically the story itself really like ends there, but part 4 continues on with its own little plot as the creature tries to go back to its ship, and the Doctor doesn't feel like the creature's saying all that it knows. And when it's up on the surface, it reveals that because it's an ambassador and it's been stuck there for so long, his race would consider this an act of war. So what they're going to try and do is send out a star that's going to go supernova and destroy the planet, and it wants to escape as soon as possible. And the Doctor convinces it that you shouldn't destroy a planet just because one person failed to be a good host, because everybody else on this planet is actually a very nice people. It was just that one woman who had power and wanted all the monopoly on it. So the Doctor and this creature team up using the Doctor's TARDIS and this creature's machine to try and use metal onto this onto the sun, and the Doctor traps it in a beam, accidentally throwing the sun into itself because something went wrong, and the only way the Doctor could survive is dematerializing just before the impact, which he does. And so that's how our story ends. So that's Creature from the Pit. Overall, it's not particularly great. It has some few issues, mainly that it's just not that interesting. But it has some great character moments. Romana and K9 have some very great bits. This probably is my favourite in terms of K9 and what he does in the story and his plot. The new voice gives him a nice little its own personality, which I like John Leeson, don't get me wrong, but I really like this new voice for K9. It looks brilliant. The twist at the end where this creature is an ambassador really works, and it doesn't feel out of place. The villain could have been a lot better in my opinion. Tom Baker is just mad as always and has some really great lines. There are some great supporting characters, though there are some really generic ones as well. It's kind of a hodgepodge of interesting and dull characters. But yeah, overall, it's okay. It's okay. It's nothing too noteworthy, apart from the fact that it technically ties into animal magic, but that's literally the only thing that it's got importance on. But I think if it seems like, watch the trailer. If it seems like you would be interested in it, go watch it. It does deserve to be remembered. It just won't blow anyone away, I don't think. So join me next time where the Doctor and Romana uncover a drug deal on a space cruiser, and we get introduced to some wacky and strange side characters. So join me next time for The Nightmare of Eden. See you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.